Hey, what's up everybody? Bluegrass Trapper here. I had a request from one of my subscribers back in trapping season. I'm sorry, Hunter, it's taking me this long to get to this. But anyway, the guy asked, he reached out to me on my Facebook, asked if I could do a YouTube video showing how I set up my snares. Said he's pretty good at catching coyotes with foothold traps, but he was wanting to get better with catching them in snares. I don't use a whole lot of snares, but I'll be happy to show you how I do it, how I set it up, and what I think is the easiest way to catch a coyote with a snare. But I'll show you how I set it up in the fence line, and I'll also, if that's allowed in your state, some states you can't do that, and I'll also show you how I set up a trail set with a snare. So, let's get to it. So, I hope you can see this. What I have right here is a hole in the fence, a little trail that goes through right here. And that's plenty big enough hole for a coyote to be surprised they'll get through a hole half that size. But anyway, I'll make my loop according to the size of the hole. What you're going to need: wire cutters, your snare. Make sure that's showing up on camera. Your snare, and then you can stake them down with snare extension, cable extension, or you can stake them down with the earth anchor. However you want to do it. Right here's the post. So if I was setting up this location, I would anchor to that post with the cable extension that I hooked on the end of the snare like this. So here's a piece of wire that I brought out here. First thing I'm going to do, open my snare up. And I'll make the snare according to the size of the hole when I'm snaring fence lines. And I would hold this snare up here to see about where I'm going to need my cable, my wire support. So I would like that snare to be about center of that hole, about right there. So my wire, I want it to be about right here. So what I'm going to do is come over here, come back from that. I like to wrap it around a couple strands of wire if I got it. I like to leave it plenty long so I can mess around with it at the bottom. And I'll just wrap this, if it's woven wire, barbed wire, whatever, wrap it around the fence like that a couple times, so that way you have a good strong support. And then I'll take a pair of pliers. I had a good pair of pliers that was also cutters, but I misplaced them somewhere. So I'm using wire cutters and another pair of pliers. But then for this situation, I need the snare close to this strand right here. Take that right there and I'll bend it about right where I need it. I can always adjust this still. All this is doing is holding the snare. I'll make a loop, in this case about 8-9 inches. Maybe 10. I like the ones with the little rubber hoses on here for snare support. Once you get that on there, you can move that whichever way you want to make the snare. You want the snare to go straight up and down. See, now I got it on there, but it's too far this way, so I need to take and adjust. I barely left my wire long enough, but I need to push it all the way as far over here so I can get it. Bend that around till I get what I want. That's why I like to leave it plenty long enough. Something like that. And that's pretty much it in the fence line. That right there will work. But one thing about snares, you want to wear gloves and not get your scent on that loop. Even though they go through that hole all the time, they will smell scent on that snare and avoid that snare like the plague. But in fence lines, a lot of times, you know, it's a little bit easier. So eventually they'll eventually go through it anyway, but it just takes a whole lot longer. If you got a nice clean snare, you get new snares, always make sure you get the oil off of it. And then sometimes I'll take a little stick, poke it in the ground under it like that. Maybe even shorter than that. and that'll keep them from trying to go under it, because it'll bump their chin right there. They'll pick their head up. They're already having to bend down a little bit to go through that hole. They'll go right through that snare, bam, caught. They'll yank that off of that wire. Now if I got a really good, nice, strong woven wire fence, tall enough, what I will do is I'll leave them enough slack. I'll tie it to a post if I can, and I'll leave them enough slack, if I can talk here, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, leave them enough slack where they can chunk the fence and they can't touch the ground on the other side. So you'll come out and you'll have a coyote hanging there the next morning. I mean, whenever they come through. But the reason I don't use snares a whole lot, and I could definitely up my number of coyotes if I used more snares, but the reason I don't use them a whole lot, because I don't want to catch the farmer's dog, or, you know, if there's dogs around, and I hate catching deer. I've caught a few deer in them. You'd be surprised, them young yearlings, how low they will get trying to go underneath the fence. And they will definitely get down and as low as a coyote will, I'll tell you that. And I've caught them in a hole no bigger than this. And I was just amazed. But they're a great tool. Great tool to have in your trapping bag. Definitely up your numbers of catches. Use snares along with footholds. So I'm going to take this wire down and I'll show you how I do a trail set, how I set up a trail set. Stay tuned. Alright, so you can do this in a sage field, in the woods like I am right now, or anywhere like that. If I was, right here's perfect. You want to follow a trail, find a place where it necks down, tree here, tree here. If I was using this particular trail, I would anchor off of, well, maybe that tree's pretty weak. But I'm just going to pretend that tree's not there. If it was sage field or somewhere brush where you don't have nothing big enough to anchor to. So in that case, what I do, I'll take a piece of wire. This may not be long enough, but I'll double it like that down here at the bottom. Stick that in the ground. I like to use number 9. It's pretty sturdy, but the reason I double it down here at the bottom, it makes it a whole lot sturdier. The only thing you want to move is that snare. So I got to pull this one up because this wire is a little too short. So just for demonstration purposes, I'm just going to do it like that. Get my snare. If there's a tree close enough, you can anchor to a tree. Or like I say, you can use earth anchors. I like to bend this into a W. Don't exactly have it the way I like it. But we'll get it here. Bear with me. Alright. So that's what I got right there. Hopefully y'all can see that on camera. So this way I can lay my snare. Get my support up here. Lay my snare in that W and it'll help support it. And when I'm in a trail, I make about 11-12 inch loop. About 11-12 inches off the ground if I'm going for coyotes. Something like that. And you can bend this wherever you want it. I like this loop to be so that the lock is over the center over here towards the support. Because that way when something comes through, it's not going to go until it all goes at once. And it'll fly shut like that. If you don't have your snare loaded and it's just like a teardrop shape, see what happens, and I just have it up there. And well, this one's loaded heavy enough, but it'll shut a whole lot slower. Have it all the way over here, that way when something does hit it, when it goes all at once. But it's important that this support is sturdy, where the only thing moving is that loop. And for coyotes, I want that about 10-12 inches off the ground, about a 10-12 inch loop. Something like that right there. Hope y'all can see that. I like a small lock too. I think these are called micro locks or slim locks or something like that. Those are one of my favorite locks. They make all different kinds of different states. Some of them require certain locks. But then I would take something and just blend it in a little bit. Whatever's around, just make it kind of look like, that wire already looks like a stick, but I would take and just blend in my cable with whatever's around. This is not very sturdy because my wire was too short. The only thing you want out hanging over the trail, the only thing you want out over the trail is that loop. You don't want this to where it's going to make them shy away from it. I like it over here. It's kind of facing over the trail, but the only thing that's really over the trail is the loop. And you can do this out in brush fields, sage fields, whatever. Those animals come right down through here. Now I'll take, sometimes I'll take a little stick or two. I try to make it look natural. Use it just to keep them, to get them to lift their chin when they're coming up, going through there. So they don't try to go under it. Sometimes you'll have deer knock them over, or you'll catch deer in them. If you're snaring somewhere up north where you get a lot of snow, I'm just showing you how I do it here in the state of Kentucky. Different states have different regulations. We can have entanglement. We gotta have one piece lock, but we can have entanglement. We can set fence rows. Some states don't allow that. But if you're up north somewhere, say Canada or somewhere like that, where you get a lot of snow, they do it different there than what I would do it here. A good person to watch, if you want to learn how to snare up north like that, the Camo Cowboy. He uses a lot of snares to catch a lot of coyotes, lynx, marten. He catches all kinds of stuff. And he uses them power rams and things like that to catch coyotes and lynx with. I'll leave a link in the description below. He's a good guy, and if you watch his channel, you can really learn how to catch them up north and places like that. With that being said, snares are not only good in your trapping bag to get your coyote numbers up, they're also a great survival tool. If you have a bug out bag, or you do any prepping or anything like that, I would recommend having some snares in that bug out bag. If you had a bag that you would grab and take if you was going out in the woods with your family and you didn't know when you was coming back, I would definitely recommend have some good cable snares in there. Have different sizes. Have little wire snares for squirrels, have a snare size for rabbits, and then some to catch coons all the way to deer. Deer would be one of the easiest things to snare that you could ever snare. It would provide a lot of food for your family. So snares are a great tool to have around. I just don't use them a whole lot on the trap line because I don't want to catch the farmer's dog, and it all depends how that dog acts on whether he's going to be okay or not. You know, sometimes you catch a dog and they realize they're tied up and they just sit there and wait, come out, release them, no big deal. But if they throw a fit and get entangled, you might come out and he'll be dispatched and you'll have to take the farmer's dog to him like that, and that wouldn't be good. So I don't use them a whole lot unless I'm sure there's no pets around. So make sure you check if there's any pets around. I recommend not using them, but they are a great tool to have around. And that being said, here before long I'll have some turkey hunting footage coming up. I got another YouTuber coming. I'm taking him turkey hunting. His channel's a lot bigger than mine. And yeah, we're gonna go turkey hunting, try to have a good time. So it'll probably be a couple weeks before you see that one, but keep an eye out for it. Did y'all know that only 10 to 40% of turkey nests eggs hatch? And then once they hatch, only about 25% of poults will make it past 4 weeks old. About 4 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks, when they get big enough where they can fly out in the roost. And a lot of that's due to predators: raccoons, possums, skunks, coyotes, bobcats. I've found evidence of bobcats killing grown turkeys. Trapping is a great tool to help with that. Just figured I'd throw that in there here at the end of this video. I appreciate y'all watching. I hope to see y'all in the next one. Bluegrass Trapper.